Alright, what's going on, guys? So no fishing today. Instead, we are going to talk about life listing. So number one, what is it? And then number two, we will talk about what is on my life list. So life listing, essentially it is a list of all the different species of fish that you have caught throughout your life. So off the top of my head, I think there's something like 28 or 30,000 different described fish species worldwide. So the goal would be to catch at least one of every single one of those. Now that's basically impossible. However, I don't know exactly, but I think some of the top life listers are somewhere around the 1,000 mark. I myself, I am in the low 100s. A lot of the better life listers are probably in the couple hundreds. Let's say the 2, 3, 4, 500, somewhere around there. So essentially, you're trying to catch one of every fish that exists out there. So I am somewhat new to it. I've been doing it for only about 2 or 3 years. Consistently, but really throughout my entire life, it's something that I've tried to do. Even growing up, I was always a lot more excited about catching a different species of fish rather than a large version of a fish that I've caught before. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like catching big fish. I do target peacocks, largemouths, striped bass when I'm up in New Jersey, but I just like the challenge of catching the different kinds of fish a lot more, even if they are small. So microfishing kind of plays a big role in life listing because the vast majority of the fish species worldwide are going to be micro, so meaning less than 8 inches. Very few species actually grow to a big enough size where people would consider them game fish, like traditional fishermen, fish that traditional fishermen would target. Most fish, if you want to build a life list, are going to have to be small, so you're going to have to microfish for that. And I enjoy the challenge of finding the new species of fish, figuring out how to get them to bite, and I enjoy traveling, going to new places, fishing new bodies of water. So really the entire scope of life listing really fits what I enjoy doing. A lot of people, I don't know if they don't understand it or just don't like doing it, but I mean I don't blame them because not catching small fish isn't for everyone. I understand the thrill of chasing big fish, but essentially that is what life listing is. Now, I think there's really three kind of universally accepted rules for how to add a fish to your life list. Now, first, the life list, it's your life list, so you can do whatever you want with it, but there's kind of three rules that most people, I would say, follow. So first up, I would say the fish has to be wild caught. All right, so what I kind of mean by that, let me give you two examples. First, if someone has a koi pond in their front yard that they build, they dug it out, they stock the koi, they feed the koi, there's a filter and a pump to keep the koi alive. If you go and you catch one of those, I would not consider that a lifeless catch just because it's not a wild fish. On the other hand, if someone builds a farm pond, stocks it with, let's say, some sort of bass or sunfish species, and now those fish are out there kind of self-sustaining. That is a wild pond, so if you catch a fish from there, I would count that. Then, of course, if you catch a fish in the ocean, natural lakes, rivers, something like that, I think that counts. It's a wild fish. So that's number one. Number two, the fish has to be caught through traditional kind of angling or fishing techniques. So essentially, it has to be a hook in the mouth. Snag fish don't count. Catching them in a net doesn't count. That sort of thing. And then number three, this one's more of a gray area. For me, you have to have possession of the fish for long enough where if you wanted to take it home with you, you could. Even if you don't plan on taking it home, you would have had to have that ability. That's what I consider a catch personally. So for example, last summer, I hooked into a fall fish. I caught it because I pulled it out of the water. I grabbed it, but right when I grabbed it, it kind of squirmed around, it spit the hook and jumped back in the water. So I technically caught it, but for like my definition of what a catch is, I did not catch it because I wasn't able to take it home. So what I really like to do is I like to catch it and take a picture of it. Once I take a picture of it, for me, that counts. So yeah, those are really the three rules for life listing, at least in my opinion. Life listing is catching one of as many different kinds of species of fish as you can. So now what I would like to do is take a quick look at my life list. It's not too big, a little bit over 100 fish. I keep track of it in a very simple Excel file. So I'll show you what that looks like. I'll talk about a few of the I guess, more interesting fish on that list, or at least to me. And let's do that right now. All right, so here is the very, very simple Excel sheet. I really only have 5 columns. So the genus of the fish, the species of the fish, the common name, the general location where I caught it, and then the date that it was caught. I used to have a couple more things on here, like the body of water or the bait or lure that I used, but really I just don't really care about those too much anymore. So this is good enough for my purposes. If you look, there's a couple spots where there is an NA listed, and that just means that I have caught that fish and entered that fish before I started keeping the life list. So I caught it, let's say, years ago, but I'm still confident that I caught the fish. I definitely remember catching the fish, and I have a picture of the fish. I just don't necessarily have a date or a location because it was too long ago and I don't exactly remember. But yeah, so you could sort this many different ways. I usually just have it sorted by genus, but real quick, let's sort it by date here. So I could show you that. So let me sort oldest to newest. Now, the NA, the non-applicable, those are going to be down toward the bottom, but very quickly here, 2018 is kind of when I started doing this. I only caught 3 that year, wasn't really into it, and we had a pretty big jump in 2019, caught a bunch of fish then. 2020, another good year, that's when I took it pretty seriously, and in 2021, the best year so far. I traveled a lot this year, and I kind of made it a point to travel with the specific purpose of trying to catch some new fish. So I got a couple out in San Diego, a couple in Utah, a couple in New Jersey. We'll go through, I'm not going to go through all of these. If you'd like to pause it at any point, you can. But what I would like to do now is just go back to sort it by the genus. There we go. And what I would like to do now is just go through a couple of these fish, kind of maybe the cooler catches, at least the cooler catches to me. The first one I think that is cool, at least to me, would be the mud sunfish. Grew up in New Jersey. I knew that these are in New Jersey. They're in the Pine Barrens. But growing up in North Jersey, that was just a little bit out of reach. They're not necessarily a rare fish. They're just not found in a lot of different bodies of water, especially the kind of bodies of water that fishermen normally fish. So this is a cool catch. I got one last year in Osceola National Forest, and that kind of just has a special place in my heart. A couple fish below that, you have the spotted bullhead. Again, last year, me and my friends, we rented a house on the Swanee River trying to get my first ever Swanee bass. Between the 3 of us bass fishing for 2 days, we only caught 2 largemouths. So that was a disaster, but I was not going to go home empty-handed, so the night before we left, I just kind of dunked some night crawlers, caught my first ever spotted bullhead within a couple minutes. That fish, I think, is only found in 2 different rivers, so it's not very widespread, so that is a very cool catch. Actually might be my favorite catfish catch. What else do we got? A couple down here, we got the convict cichlid. Again, not super widespread. Caught it in a little creek up in Orlando this past spring. The eastern happy cichlid, a couple below that, another really cool looking fish. Caught it out of a canal in Parkland. Again, not very widespread. I think that canal might be the only body of water where that fish is reproducing in the US. Let's scroll down. What else is a cool, noteworthy catch? Ooh, okay, this one, right? Where'd it go? Right there. The orange spotted grouper. If you look at the catch location, it's in Qatar. So I had a layover in Qatar a couple years ago. I left the airport for a couple hours, did a little bit of fishing. I added 2 new species to my life list there, the orange spotted grouper being one of them. So that's, I mean, it's not a rare catch, it's just a cool catch because of where I caught it and the circumstances of how I caught it. What else do we have here? Ooh, okay, the real grand cichlid I think is a pretty cool catch. The only cichlid species native to the United States. It's native to parts of Texas, even though now I think it is established also in Louisiana and parts of Florida. So the only cichlid native to the US, so I think that is pretty cool. It also looks really nice, black with some nice teal accents on it. What else? There's a lot of fish on here, a lot of sunfish, a A lot of different snappers. Let me try to find one more cool one for us to talk about, at least a noteworthy one. I think we could, yeah, let's talk about the Winter Flounder, just because it's kind of cool to me. I've only ever caught one. I've lived in New Jersey for a long time growing up. Never specifically targeted them. Didn't know exactly if they were in the waters around where I grew up. But then last year I was kind of just dunking some sandworms or bloodworms for some white perch. And then I kind of got a little winter flounder as a bycatch. So it was a tiny little one, but a very cool catch, at least in my opinion. And anything else cool down there? Not really. But yeah, so if you look, there are 119 entries. But remember, the first entry at the top is the headings, the genus, species, common name, all that. So I really only have 118 species on my life list here. I could probably add about 10 more right now if I was a little bit more liberal with my identification skills. But if I am not 100% sure on the ID of a fish, I don't add it. So if you look, there's no jewel cichlids on this list, even though I've caught many of those, just because I'm not exactly sure on the species. There's no blue or Nile tilapia, just because, again, I'm not sure on the species. Same thing with the Midas and red devil cichlid. So if I wanted to, I could probably add several more fish, but I'm just very strict with the fish that I add on the list. I like to be 100% certain that the fish that I caught is actually the fish that I caught. So yeah, that is going to wrap it up. I hope you like this different kind of video, and I will see you guys next time.